Hey all, so today I'm going to show world bosses in my MMO that I've been working on called Eldevar Online. Name's still placeholder, but that's what I'm calling it for now. So this is our Ent boss, and in a second here, a bunch of bots should spawn in and help us kill it. So the thinking here behind the world bosses is actually really similar to Guild Wars 2. So the idea is they're kind of approachable by anyone. They're more of every man for themselves mechanics rather than a little bit of a leg spike there because all the characters jumped in at once. But it's a bit every man for themselves rather than having like orchestrated mechanics. So you still need a tank. But you can see the kind of idea behind this fight is there's mushrooms that explode all over and they leave a poison cloud that you have to move out of. He does some ground slams that shoot out AoEs. He has a self buff that makes him do more damage but also take more damage. A lot of projectiles that shoot out. Standard kind of bullet hell mechanics. But once we actually get to the end and we kill them, we'll also talk about kind of the philosophy behind the purpose of the world bosses and why they exist in the game. Well, I guess we can talk about that now. So the purpose behind the world bosses is they drop crafting materials. So the idea is that all kind of higher tier gear will be crafted, and the crafting materials are going to be mostly tradable, but the ones that aren't are going to be the world boss, the drops. So this is kind of one of the reasons to force players outside of just trading and having to actually have them interact with content. So you can see the fight actually gets pretty hectic. There's a little bit of movement. I have God mode on for everything, that's why nothing's dying. Also the numbers aren't totally tuned yet for this boss. I'm not sure how aggressive I want it because this is still kind of the first area. But the idea is even in endgame gear, this dude's stuff will still be used. So higher level players can come and solo it if they wanted to, or not solo it, but do it with a smaller group. But the idea is it kind of gets zerged down by everyone. And it also reward EXP, and then obviously the big thing is the drops. And then the drops themselves are likely going to be time gated. I'm not 100% sure how I want to balance that just yet. That's still kind of in the talks, or we're still trying to figure that out. But I do know that I don't want players to just be able to spam farm this and get all the crafting materials that they need. So like this is an example, right? So there's Eldritch Heart, and there's Primordial, I can't remember what this is actually called. I have some in my inventory. Yeah, Primordial Ember, which is also used for crafting endgame gear. So that's kind of the purpose. So now I will go and show the dragon boss with kind of the same mechanics, just so you can, or the same setup, just so you can see what that. Okay, so here is the dragon. I spawned in 100 players this time, so we'll see how it reacts. But it's, kind of similar. It's basically the same exact design philosophy as the Ent, right? It's an every man for themselves style boss fight. So the idea is kind of more just on yourself staying alive rather than having to rely on other players and whatnot. So there still needs to be a tank. There's still obviously going to need to be healers. How that's going to work, how I want to actually display like HPs and whatnot, because the idea is you don't have to be grouped for this. You just kind of show up and do it. You can come in with a group obviously, but ways to do that. So I'm trying to think of that. It might just be more types of AoE heals kind of, and you're just with your small parties or whatever you ask for invites. This is kind of the same thing, right? Everything has God mode, numbers aren't tuned, so it's a similar issue. But yeah, it's like a frontal cleave that he does. There's eventually going to be a custom animation for that too. He does a healing thing here. He gives himself a buff when he does that. I recently also added movement, like kind of forced movement, because what was happening before was it was just kind of everything was stationary, or the boss itself was stationary and just getting there, so I added different phases too. But yeah, same exact process here with drops verdant worm heart, which is the similar thing that's used for crafting, or verdant worm scale. There's also a dragon's heart that can drop. I guess it didn't drop this time. Should be 100%, but yeah, that's kind of the bossing philosophy and just an overview of two of the world bosses. Just I wanted to show off and kind of showing what a mass group of combat looks like with a variety of different classes attacking a boss. Again, we're starting playtesting here soon, probably targeting mid-July, so if that's something you're interested in, definitely leave a comment. We can get you set up and hooked up to do some playtesting. Thanks for watching.